Good morning, everyone. So, I'm going to need you to stand up really quickly. We've had a great week so far. This is the perfect scenario. It is a slightly cool room, slightly dim lights, just the right atmosphere for you to fall asleep in the last hour we have left. So here's what I need you to do very quickly. I need you to find someone at a different table and just share with them one of the highlights from the conference for you. Now, you only got 60 seconds to do this, but at a table that you're not sitting at, really quickly, find them and share with them just one of the highlights of the conference for you. Ready? Go. 30 seconds. Fifteen seconds, you should start making your way back to your seat. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what do we do with the evidence? What do we do with the evidence that we are experiencing an uncomfortable situation? When you have to make a decision, what do you do with the evidence? What do you do when your knees start shaking? What do you do when you know that you need to speak up, but you feel that quiver in the back of your throat? What do you do when your palms are sweaty? And the crazy thing is that these signs, this evidence, sometimes comes up at the most inopportune times. It comes up, have you ever been there when you're typing an email of something that you really need to say to somebody, and then your hands start shaking? Or a person that you really need to talk to walks by your desk 3 or 4 times. That's uncharacteristic of them, but they walk by your desk 3 or 4 times, and you know you need to tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, can I talk to you for a few moments? But you feel that quiver in your throat. There's a text message that you need to send, and as you're crafting it, you become nervous. Or you punch in the numbers on your keypad, and that green telephone icon is glaring back at you, but for some strange reason, you cannot find the courage to push the button. So today is a conversation about courage, and here's one of the things that is really important to reflect on. The fact remains that it's really easy to talk about courage after the fact. And I know you've been there because I've been there many times. You sat in a meeting and you wanted to share your opinion and you didn't share it, but then over lunch with you and your friends, you said, girl, if she had said one more thing to me, I was going to give her a piece of my mind. If the meeting had gone on any longer, I would have put my hand up. And it's easy to talk about it after the fact. It's easy after the fact to stick your chest out and to walk up, stand up straight and tall and say all the things that you need to say. But what about in the moment? Where is the courage in the moment? And when we don't show the courage that we need to show, in the middle of typing the email, we click the trash can icon. We delete the text message. We let the person walk by and the day is over. And we don't take the opportunity that's given to us. It's strange that often when we need to display courage the most, it shows up the least. Now, when we did the little icebreaker and I said, introduce yourself to somebody at the table, not everybody was feeling the exercise. And some of you are like, oh, he's one of those speakers that makes us get up and talk, one of those guys. And we were thinking, all of these things started going through our heads. We started going through the checklist. Well, okay, is my hair right? Is my makeup right? Is my lanyard right? I'm getting ready to go on a plane. I don't want to talk to anybody. All of these things start to go through our heads. But sometimes we miss out on some of the coolest moments, and some of the best living happens on the other side of the things that you're afraid of. Some of you just missed out on the fact that you just shook hands with your next boss or your next employee, with your next project. Sometimes when I give this presentation, I say, you just shook hands with your next spouse, but that doesn't always go over too well, so I started taking that out of the presentation. But I realized that sometimes my life has been significantly limited because I refused to keep walking in the right direction even though I was afraid. And part of it is the way that society and culture characterizes courage. Some of us say courage is only for people in uniform. Courage is only for troops going into battle. Courage is only for firefighters that are running into the fire. It's only for police officers that show up when things get dicey. And because I'm not in a situation like that, then I really don't have to worry about living courageously. Or sometimes we say courage is for individuals who are in the sports world. It's for athletes, people who really need to show up when the game is on the line, when they're eye to eye with their enemy, when all of the fans are watching and time is running out. Or courage is for people on stage. Courage is for when the lights are bright and for when everyone's watching, especially with expectation. Courage is for those people in Vegas who have their name up in lights or who cover whole sides of skyscrapers like Penn and Teller. Courage is for those individuals. And because I'm not in that space, I don't have to worry about living with courage. But the truth is, for everyday courage, the display is not always grand. It's not always a situation where the lights are bright and people are paying attention. It's not even a situation always that lives are on the line. But it's the small moments that make the biggest difference. So what does everyday courage look like? And how can you find the courage to keep going? This is what John Wayne says, that famous actor from back in the day. Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. I like how Muhammad Ali put it. He said, courage, he who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. But the one that really pulled on me as I was doing some research and discovery and conversation about courage, Mary Ann Rodmacher says, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. When I think about my life, I think about the number of sections, the entries in my professional career, where I was too afraid to make the right decision. When you let Webster define courage, Webster says courage is the mental or moral strength to venture, to persevere, to withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Courage is that willingness to go into uncharted territory. It's that willingness to keep going every day. And it's that willingness to hold fast, even though when it feels like sometimes the world is crumbling around you. When I think about my professional career, there are huge sections, and I'm not proud of it, and I know I'm still relatively young at 38 years old, but there are huge sections of my life where I realize I have been living under this haze of fear. And we were never designed to operate life that way. There's an amazing power, there's a capacity to love, and there's a clarity of thought that happens when we're willing to keep going even though we're scared. This is a shot of the campus of Western Kentucky University in a beautiful city called Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now, Bowling Green is about an hour north of Nashville. It's about 2 hours south of Louisville. And for several years, my family and I lived in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I was pastoring a couple of small churches there, young family, wife and 2 daughters. And I had just written my first book, Leading While Green, How Emerging Leaders Can Ripen into Effective Leaders. And I was just starting this journey of discovering what it means to be a leader. And I remember getting a phone call. I got a phone call from a consulting company in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And one of the consultants says, you know, we've been watching some of the things that you've been doing. We've actually picked up a copy of your book. We've had conversations with people in the city of 60,000 people, swells to 100,000 on the weekend because it's a convention, tourist, sports town on the weekend. We've noticed some of the things that you've been doing in the city, and we want to offer you an opportunity to join our consulting firm on a contract basis. Now, I recognize that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, this is one of the things that I was looking to pivot to in my career. And I went in and had a conversation with many of the consultants, and they were talking about their experience and what I could bring to the team and the perspectives and the possibilities. And I said, give me 3 or 4 days to think about it. So I went home, and for 3 or 4 days, I thought about it, and I talked to my wife about it, and I talked to my mentor, and I talked to my friends about it. And I came back 4 days later, and I said, this is an incredible opportunity. I'm grateful to be considered, but I can't take the job. You see, I have a young family, and if I take this job and I take this opportunity and I put it on my plate, then my family's going to miss me too much, so I can't take it. I'm pastoring, I'm leading 2 small churches. The churches are about an hour apart. And if I take this and add it to my other responsibilities, it's not going to work out. And I had all of these reasons. I had 5 or 6 reasons, these reasons why this would not, even though it was an incredible opportunity, reasons why I could not take the job. And I remember leaving that office and getting in my car and being on the verge of tears. Because even though those reasons were valid, I had really just lied to these people. It wasn't the family thing, because my wife told me to do it. It wasn't the church thing, because there was a way for me to manage the responsibilities, and this was contract work, so I could determine my schedule based on the client. It wasn't the other opportunities in the city. It came down to one thing and one thing only. I was scared. I was scared. What would people say? What if I walk into a project and the client looks at me and says he doesn't have enough experience and I want to work with someone else? What if I end up in a place and I have no idea what I'm doing? What will my mom say, or what will my dad say? What would my friends say? What will the people who just say you're friends and don't interact with you on social media but just stalk your life, what would they say too? Oh, you have people like that in your life. And I let all of these ideas put me in a place. And sometimes I was talking to my best friend today. He drove all the way from California to come hang out with me. I was saying, I kick myself sometimes because I say, what would have happened if? And a lot of times, we let fear sit in the driver's seat of not just our professional lives, but our personal lives too. And whenever you let fear do the driving, I guarantee you will always end up in a place that you don't want to be. Now, part of the reason why this happens is because each and every one of us is dealing with a scared little kid on the inside. I've been traveling and giving a version of this presentation for a while now, and every time I put this slide on the screen and explain the concept behind it, you feel it in the room, the reality that each and every one of us is dealing with the scared little kid on the inside. Something happened to us when we were in elementary school, something happened when we were in middle school, something happened in high school. For some of us, it was college. It was some experience, and some of us, it was really traumatic. Somebody stepped into our personal space just a little too close, and when they stepped out of that space, we were left violated. Some of us, it was verbal. It was a teacher that looked at us and said, people that come from where you come from will never become anything. It was a parent that neglected us or abandoned us. It's some mark that was left on us. And for the rest of our lives, we said, no matter what it takes, I'm going to do everything that I can so that I don't have to feel like that anymore. I'm going to do everything that I can to protect the scared little kid. And it tracks us and it sticks with us even into our personal lives. And sometimes we don't even know why we're acting the way that we're acting. Here's the truth. Some of us in this room, you're not really a jerk. Some of your coworkers are saying, you could have fooled me. You're not really a jerk. But being a jerk is your mechanism for protecting the scared version of you. I had this conversation a couple years ago with my mom. And that's my wife and I. That was 12 years ago and about 50 pounds lighter. That's my wedding day. My parents and my wife's parents. And I remember just having that feeling on my wedding day, like this is the best day of my life. There's nothing that tops this day for me besides the birth of my wife and kids, and then being invited to speak at this conference again. I mean, that's up there. And we were struggling college kids. I was in grad school, but I was working full time, and then I was teaching full time, and my wife was in school, and we were just trying to make it happen. And our whole wedding, and I know this is going to just throw some of you off. Our whole wedding, we did it for $5,000. $5,000. Like that's dress, that's tuxedos, that's reception, that's the chapel we were in. I mean, the whole thing for $5,000. And at the time, $5,000 seemed like $1 million to us. We're struggling. I'm working full time. I'm teaching full time. We have so much going on, but we just don't have the money to cover it. And I remember at the reception, being in the corner with my wife and both of our parents, and we're in the corner because near the end of the reception, we had collected all of the cards that people had given to us. And we were opening the cards to get the cash out so that we could put some money on the reception bill. And we took some, and my parents said, no, we can't take it all. And then they covered the rest of it. But I remember like being excited, even though we didn't have anything, being super excited and having the feeling of starting my life. And I also remember a conversation that I had with my mom a couple of years prior to this. I said, Mom, I think I found the one. She said, oh, really? Tell me more. And I was talking about this girl that I had met from this place that I had never heard of called Trinidad, and she introduced me to her culture, and we really connected and hit it off, and we had been dating for a while. And I said, Mom, it's about the time that I think I'm gonna get married. And my mom looked at me and she said, no, you're not. What do you mean, no, Mom? I'm checking off the boxes, Mom. I finished undergrad. I'm in grad school. I'm teaching full time. Job prospects coming in multiple directions, like breaking cycles and generational curses and doing all these things and being a mentor and a friend, and I'm traveling and I'm speaking even in college. What do you mean, Mom? What do you mean? She said, you're not ready to get married until you deal with what's going on in your head and what's going on in your heart. And I knew exactly what my mother was talking about, because I had spent much of my high school and collegiate years protecting the scared little kid on the inside of me. I had a unique way of doing it. Now, I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'10" with shoes on. Don't feel bad for me. I embraced it. I'm okay with it. But I'm not a big guy. I'm not a super strong guy. And knowing that I'm going into a world that can be sometimes fearful, I said, as a guy who's not that big and not that strong, what are the ways that you can protect yourself so you can defend a scared little kid on the inside? And what I developed was a permanent scowl. It's hard for me to do it now because I've grown out of it, but this permanent scowl, and the scowl says, you can come over here if you want to, but you might not make it back in one piece. And I would walk into rooms, I would even walk into events like this with people I didn't even know, and because I was afraid, because I was uncertain, because I didn't know what would happen, I would put this permanent scowl on my face and dare anybody to even get close to me. And it worked for a number of years. But when that wouldn't work, I used humor. I had a way of de-escalating a situation with a joke, and if somebody who was around that was intimidating to me, I would just turn the room on that person. I would have everyone laughing at that person. And when those things wouldn't work, I would just go into isolation. I would show up missing for special events and times with friends. I just wouldn't be around because I'm protecting the scared little kid on the inside because of some of the things that have happened to me. And my mom said to me, if you don't deal with that stuff, I will never co-sign you spending the rest of your life with somebody. So I found the counseling office on campus and went in there and signed up. And I said, how am I going to play this in the counseling office? Am I going to be like the mean guy that walks in and dares the counselor to pull it out of me? Am I going to be the intellectual guy? Am I going to be the funny, the witty guy? And counselors, he was so smooth the way he did it. He didn't fall for any of my crap. And after several months of these exchanges, I go back to my mom 6 months later. I said, Mom, I think I'm going to ask this girl to marry me. She said, yeah, I can see you're a bit different now. Because sometimes courage is finding a safe place to say that something is wrong and you're not quite sure how to fix it. Sometimes we have forced ourselves into thinking that courage is just this grand display of bravery, this overwhelming rush of testosterone, this dramatic feat. Sometimes courage is simply saying, Callie, it's simply saying, I know something is wrong, but I don't know how to fix it. And I need some help. I'll tell you a quick story about elementary school. Do you know that the most dangerous place to be sometimes is elementary school? Because the kids are horrible. Have you ever been around, some of you, I know it's been years, just sign up to give a talk at an elementary school and just hang around the playground and listen to the kids talk to each other. It's a scary place to be. Like just with reckless abandon, they just go at each other. And many of them are going at each other because they're scared little kids themselves trying to protect themselves. And I remember being in elementary school, and I remember wanting to be with the cool kids. Anybody ever want to be with the cool kids? Don't raise your hand. It's okay. It'll just be me and you. I wanted to be with the cool kids so bad. And here's the crazy thing. I didn't even like the cool kids. I just wanted to be associated with them so that people would look at me differently. And do you know how much that even follows you even into your professional career, even in a place like Vegas? Some of us, let's be completely honest, and this will just be between me and you. You don't have to tell anybody else. Some of us are not even really the partying type. But because you have dealt and wrestled with feelings of isolation and rejection in your life, you went out to hang out anyway. And when you finally got to your room at 2:30 in the morning, you ask yourself, why did I do this again? This fear of missing out, this fear of rejection sometimes causes us to be people or to pretend that we're somebody that we're actually not. And you got to ask yourself the question, is that really you? Or is that the person that you're pretending to be to protect yourself? So let's go back to the early 90s. The company that makes this shoe, the brand is called Fela. Now, there's an interesting ancient proverb that says there's nothing new under the sun. Like there's cycles that just keep repeating. So this is early 90s. This is a Fela. And I walked into the store last year or the year before, and there are these Fela shoes everywhere. And all the cool kids now are wearing Felas the same way they wore them when I was in elementary school. And I had an uncomfortable flashback. I said, here we go again. This is part of the reason why I have more shoes in my closet than I actually wear, this experience. So the cool kids are at school, and they're saying, because Fela had just come out or just come to the U.S., the cool kids are saying, gym class in 3 weeks, everybody's going to have Felas. And if you don't have Felas, you are not one of the cool kids. Pierre, are you going to have a pair of Felas? Now, I came from a family, my father's always been an entrepreneur. My mother has always worked with individuals with special needs, and we had everything that we needed, but we didn't always get the things that we wanted. So purchases that made you feel better weren't always high on my parents' priority list. But this was actually a time where I needed a new pair of shoes. So I'm standing there, and they're saying, Pierre, are you going to have a pair of Felas? And I said, of course. The problem was I never had the conversation with my parents. 1 week passes, countdown, people have their little planners and scratching off the days so we bring our Felas to school for gym class. 2 weeks pass, and the night before, Dad, we need to talk. You see, tomorrow is gym class and my shoes are falling apart. Now, I went outside the day before and pulled on them just a little bit so they could flap. I said, Dad, you got to look at these things. My shoes are falling apart. I need a new pair of shoes. Can you take me to Foot Locker so I can get some shoes? And he says, of course, son. Son, you can get anything that you want at Foot Locker with $65. Now you laughing because this was the 90s and you said that's not enough money. We get into Foot Locker and I'm pretending that I have an interest in the other shoes in the store. Oh, these are nice. Oh, these are cool. Dad, look at those. Oh, Dad, I saw those on TV. And I was in Foot Locker for 30 minutes until I said, Dad, I really think this is the shoe for me. And I'm right in front of the pair of Felas. And I flip the shoe over. And it says $74.99. I said, okay, if you carry the one, $65, was it? Maybe there's some change in the car. And the guy at Foot Locker, he said, I see you struggling. Here's a little tip. If you go to the gas station and buy a bottle of Gatorade, the bottle of Gatorade has a $10 coupon from Foot Locker. I said, okay, that's good. Hey, Dad, can we just go to the gas station real quick and buy a bottle of Gatorade so I can have $10 off? And he said, of course, son. My dad didn't tell me that the money to buy the Gatorade was going to come from the $65 that was allotted for my shoes. So I said, okay, I bought the cheapest bottle of Gatorade to get the coupon, and I'm carrying, okay, I got $10, but I lost $2. We're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. This is fine. This is fine. So we get back, and I know my dad knows we don't have enough money, but he allows this little charade to continue. Great parenting, great parenting. So we're standing there, and he rings it up, and I can't remember the total. I just remember we did not have enough money. And my dad said, listen, son, I can go to work tomorrow. I can make some sales. I can do it early, and then I can bring you the shoes in time for gym class. I said, oh, no. We're not doing that. Because my dad's work day was unpredictable, and something could happen. Somebody could show up, or he would have a meeting, and I'd just be left there stranded, looking out the window, waiting for my shoes. And it didn't dawn on me that it would have been better for me to leave Foot Locker with nothing than to leave with what I purchased. We didn't get a pair of Felas, one of the most popular shoes in the early 90s. We walked out of there with a pair of these. Now, you're not laughing because you don't understand the implications of this. These were a pair of Patrick Ewings. And even though Patrick Ewing at the time was still a notable basketball player, no one would be caught dead in his shoes. So I got a pair similar to this, but mine were low tops, and I wore them to school. And from the time I hit the door till the time the day was over, the kids laughed at me all day long. I'm grateful that I didn't grow up in the age of social media when kids take pictures and videos of you. It totally destroyed my self-confidence. But they laughed at me the entire day because I made a promise that I would have something that I couldn't produce. How many times do we allow fear to convince us to make promises we can't keep because we're tired or scared or lonely or embarrassed? And in our careers, many of us challenge people to live with courage. Like in the court system, you see people all the time, and sometimes you ask the question, like, why can't they get it together? Why can't they get their head on straight? Like, can't they just dig deep and do the right thing? Can't they dig deep and be accountable, show up on time, fill out their paperwork? Like, why can't they do it? But it's crazy that sometimes the very courage that we challenge other people to have, we are devoid of displaying ourselves. So how do I find the courage to keep going? When I wrote this second book, Leading While Scared, How to Find the Courage to Keep Going, I realized that many times it's not a question of ignorance. It's not a question of not knowing what to do. At a certain time in your professional life, sometimes it's just being afraid to do the right thing. So how do we find the courage to keep going? The first thing is very, very important. You have to take another look at yourself. Take another look at who? Take another look at yourself. And this is very important. And I know people don't always like doing this self-reflection. But self-reflection and self-awareness are huge parts of leadership. Socrates said many years ago, or at least the internet said that Socrates said many years ago, that the unexamined life is not worth living. And I'm big on professional development and executive coaching, and I love assessments. I always do assessments. I'm big on assessments. So I'm going to give us a quick assessment, okay? Really quick. You got something to write with, use it. If not, use your phone, or if not, remember it in your head. So here's the scenario. The scenario is that we are on a sports team together. I'm going to give us a list of 4 words or phrases. Think about being on a sports team together. What's the word or phrase that will mean the most to you being on this sports team, okay? So here are the 4 words or phrases. We're on a sports team together, and what would be the most important thing to you? Would it be winning? Would it be hanging out with the team? Would it be helping other people on the team do their very best? Or would it be knowing the stats? If we were on a team together, what would be the most important thing for you? Would it be winning? Would it be hanging out with the team? Would it be helping others contribute to the team? Or would it be knowing the statistics? Okay, let's see. I hope you didn't take too much time to do that. How many people say the most important thing to you would be winning? Please stand really quickly. We want to see who you are. Okay. Everybody, please give them a round of applause. All right. You have a seat. So for these individuals, winners, they're about winning. They're kind of like, if we had to put an animal persona on them, they would be like lions. They're leaders, they're decisive, bottom line, they're observers, and they're problem solvers. The crazy thing is that for every behavioral style or intention, winning is a big deal for you, there is also a corresponding fear. And do you know what the fear is for people like this? Yes, and losing control. So sometimes when people who are lions or lionesses, when new things or strange things or fearful situations show up, they find themselves trying to figure out, what can I keep control of? And that's how they show they're scared. So how do you deal with people like this? If they're on your team or they're your boss or they're your client, you give them the tools they need to win. Give them what they need to succeed. You know he's crazy. You know she's crazy. You know they're about to go ballistic. What can you put in their hands? What can you put in their inbox? Because they're going ballistic because they're afraid, and they don't want to tell you they're afraid. They just think about more things to control. Oh, I'll take care of that. Oh, I'll take care of that. Oh, I'll do it. Or I'll come behind you after you did it, and I'll do it myself. Don't look around. Just look straight at me, all right? It's just between me and you. Give them the tools they need to win. That's how you help a lion or lioness that's scared. How many people said it's just about hanging out? I don't really care if we win. I just want to hang out. All right, please stand. These are my friends. I'm glad that I found you. Okay. All of the people who are standing, stand again really quickly. I think you just look around the room and say, I'm sorry. Go ahead and have a seat. These are the individuals who did. I'm one of you, okay? We're together. We're kindred spirits. These are the individuals who we don't notice the nonverbal cues of when the conversation is over. Like, you're done talking to us. We're not done talking to you. You've turned, you've shifted, you've pulled out your phone, and we're still in your personal space being around because we just love icebreakers and waking up in the morning. And then I would go from table to table and talk to everybody that I could because I just want to hang out. I'm sociable. I'm excited, fun-loving. I'm the cheerleader. I'm personable. That's who these otter-like individuals are. But do you know what the fear is? Not being accepted, not being liked. And sometimes people who have this particular persona or style, sometimes we won't make the tough calls because if we make the tough calls, we're trying to figure out who's not going to like us anymore. There have been several times in my professional career, there was a decision that I needed to make and I delayed in making a decision until it became a huge problem because I realized if I make this decision, everyone's not going to give me a high approval rating. But do you know how to help people like this? You remind them that if you don't make the decision, the people that you really care about will hurt. If you don't make the tough call, the people that you really care about, the mission that we support, the clients that we have, the services that we provide, if you don't make the tough call, the people that you really care about will continue to suffer. How many people said it's all about helping other people? Please stand. Really quickly. Can you give them a round of applause? Here's a little secret. Now, all the other people, you can get mad if you want to, but I'm about to tell the truth. These are the people that actually get the job done. My lions and lionesses got real mad right there. What you mean? These individuals they're loyal to the organization, they're supportive, they're team players, they're compassionate, they want to be there for other people, they want to make sure everybody contributes. If we're ordering lunch and we're just going to make the order and say, no, let's ask Kathy what she wants. Kathy's not paying. Kathy doesn't have an opinion. Why are we asking Kathy? But that's how they are. That's how they are. They just care about. Now, they're not like the previous one, the social people. The social people, they're going to be social whether or not you're going to be social. Be social all by yourself. They could talk to a rock and get the backstory. They're that type of person. But these people, loyals, golden retrievers, they're really loyal and committed, but they're afraid of sudden change. These are the people, when it's time to download new software, they get upset. You're laughing, aren't you? It's true. When there's a new process for filing, they're mad. They've mastered the process. They're proficient with the process. Why do we have to go about changing things? Some of these people would still have a flip phone if it worked. Because it worked. And this is how you support people like this. You show them not just lip service. When they're afraid, sometimes they're pushing back on the change because they're afraid. When they're afraid, you encourage them, but you provide for them the same tangible support that they give to other people. Because they always got your stuff. They always got your back. They're always there for you. When they're afraid, they need to know that you'll be there for them. Here's the last one, knowing the stats. You're a stats person. Anybody like that in the room? Can you please stand? Okay, few of us, faithful few. Thank you. Have a seat. These are the individuals who are watching my PowerPoint and paying attention to the typographical errors. Me, I don't really care about typos. I just want to have a good time and talk to everybody, but they're detailed, they're meticulous, they're analytical, high standards, they're orderly. They want to make sure that everything flows the way it's supposed to flow, and when it doesn't flow the way it's supposed to flow, they get upset because their biggest fear is criticism. Being told they do something wrong. It's hard to give people like this performance evaluations because they take the response very, very close to the heart. So how do you help them when they're afraid? You give them the facts and you give them time to digest. Give them the time that they need because they want to make sure that things are being done well. Now, here's the thing. Bud Bray puts this in his book, Is It Too Late to Quit My Job and Join the Circus? Here's what he says. Unfortunately, most people don't understand themselves. Most people don't want to lose their illusions about themselves. Although they say they want to change, they want to take charge of their career. Sometimes we lie because we don't want to go through the hard work of facing the reality of who we are. So the first thing is taking another look at yourself, because sometimes courage is simply going on the journey to understand yourself a bit better. The second thing is take a look at who needs you to succeed. Like if I'm scared, if I'm overwhelmed, if the project is too much, if it's too daunting, if it's too many hours that I have to put in, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, how do I respond? And sometimes finding my courage is simply taking another look at who needs me to be successful. For Heather Dorniden, it was 2008. It's one of those videos on YouTube that everybody watches. 2008, Heather Dorniden, Big Ten indoor track and field championships. She was running in the 600 meter. She was a favorite to win. She's running for the University of Minnesota. And as she is running, as they start to go into that last lap, Heather trips and falls on her face. Like smack dab on her face. And if you know anything about sports in general, seconds are like eternity. And she falls on her face, and you hear this like collective sigh from the crowd. Everybody goes, as the other runners are just dashing around the corner. And when they interviewed her sometime later, they asked her, Heather, what was going through your mind? She said, when I hit the ground, I realized at that moment that even though I might not be able to win, this is a team sport. And even if I can't win, I can still score some points for my team, but I won't be able to score the points if I'm laying flat on my face. So within seconds, Heather picks herself up and she runs with reckless abandon. And you know how the story ends. You've seen movies about things like this. She is running with reckless abandon and she is catching up to the field. And you hear the announcer say, watch out for Heather Dorniden. This girl who was flat on her face, who was embarrassed, who was in pain, who was overwhelmed, got up and ran, not just for herself, but for the people who needed her the most. And she won the race. Had an experience of hearing the story of a kid several years ago who fell into a coma. Energetic, healthy kid, but something happened at school and he got a hold of something that he wasn't supposed to have. And it made him sleepy for the rest of his day. Everyone's trying to keep him awake, the teachers, the students, because this is uncharacteristic of him. And he finally gets home, and at home, his parents are trying to keep him awake. They're trying, why are you so sleepy? You had enough sleep last night? What's wrong with you? And the final recourse is they take him to the hospital. By the time he gets to the hospital, he slips into a coma. And in that coma, the doctors say a foreign substance has entered into his body, and he's in the coma to protect himself. And they said, it doesn't matter how much you push, how much you prod, how much you shake, something inside of him has to wake up. Something inside of him has to say that it's not time to die, and something inside of him has to say there's still more work to do. And that's the reason why I like French toast. You're like, what does that have to do with anything? Because after being in a coma for 3 days, I woke up and I hit the button. And the nurse comes in with a huge smile on her face. And she says, are you hungry? I mean, I've been out for 3 days. I'm pretty hungry. And she said, I'll call the cafeteria and they'll bring you up some food. And they bring a plate of French toast. It's my first time ever having French toast. But French toast serves as a reminder that my work is not done. And that if my body could say, in the most dire of situations, that you need to get up and keep going, and I should be able to handle other situations in life when that happens. Who's counting on you to get up? You can't score points for your team lying flat on your face. Even though you're embarrassed, overwhelmed, tired, ready to give up, who needs you to pull yourself up off the pavement and keep running? And in the moments where you're not brave enough to run for yourself, maybe you'll be brave enough to run for somebody else. The last thing is this: take a look at what you've been ignoring. What's the looming thing? What's the conversation you know you need to have? What's that issue that professionally, maybe in your office, that keeps resurfacing? You've tried to ignore it and it keeps coming back over and over and over and over and over again. It's the dragon that won't back down until you slay it. It's the mountain that you can't go around or under, you got to climb it. What's that situation look like for you? For me as a kid, it was at a place called Cedar Point. Anybody from Ohio? I'm from Michigan, so yeah, I don't know what to say to you. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. So go to this place called Cedar Point in the world, always top 1, 2, or 3, the best roller coaster theme park in the world. And I remember getting at the age where I could, you're tall enough, you got to be like this height to ride the rides that really count. And I remember the year that I got to that height. And I said, I'm gonna ride the biggest, fastest roller coaster at Cedar Point this year. And I got to Cedar Point. Like when you're going, Cedar Point's kind of like on an island, and when you're going there, you can see the roller coasters way far out in the distance. And as I got closer to Cedar Point, I was like, wait a minute, I need to rethink this whole biggest, fastest roller coaster thing. Like I'm still young, I got a whole life ahead of me. I need to be cautious about my choices. Now, I told everybody I was going to ride the roller coaster. When we get to the park, I said, I'll ride it later, and I ride a couple of other rides. You ready to go to the roller coaster? No, I'll ride it later. But it seemed like everywhere I went in the park, the roller coaster was looking at me. Like I'll be eating a funnel cake or eating chicken strips, and it would be looking at me. I would come out of the bathroom, and the roller coaster would be looking at me, like taunting me, harassing me. And for the rest of the day, I avoided riding the roller coaster. And people say, hey, you said you're going to ride it. I'm just not up to it this year. And I remember driving away from Cedar Point that particular year. Because remember, it's really easy to display courage after the fact. That roller coaster wasn't even ready for me today. If I had rode the roller coaster today, they would have had to shut the whole thing down and no one could ride after me. So it's good for the roller coaster. But the truth is, I was scared. The next year we go back to Cedar Point. The next year I say, I'm going to ride the biggest, fastest roller coaster no matter what it takes. And I rode it first. Knees shaking, palms sweating, voice quivering. Pierre, you right? You ready? You're excited? Yeah, I'm ready. And it was the most frightening, exhilarating, awe-inspiring 90 seconds of my life up to that point. And when I got off that ride, even though we were up and down and loop-de-loop, when I got off that ride, I felt so accomplished. Like I had conquered this thing, and that particular roller coaster was not going to look menacingly down at me for the rest of the day because I had rode the biggest, fastest. And you know what happened? Every other ride after that was like, nah. Hey, what'd you think about this roller coaster? Yeah. What about that one? Yeah. Just yeah, because I've already rode the biggest and fastest. So there's nothing for me to be afraid of now. For my daughter, it was her bike. Now I was a little late. Don't tell anybody this. I know the people watching this streaming around the world aren't going to tell anybody either. I was a little late to the whole teach your kid how to ride a bike thing. A little late. So I said, okay, I need to teach at least my youngest daughter how to ride a bike. And I said, all right, where do you go when you know you need to do something important, but you don't know how to do it? YouTube. And you just find yourself YouTubing, the number 2 search engine in the world. You find yourself YouTubing the most random things, like how to teach your kid to ride a bike in one day. And I found a video that said how to teach your kid how to ride a bike in 10 minutes. I said, this is great. The video was 4 minutes long, so I got 6 minutes to teach her how to ride a bike. So I watched the video and I said, this is going to be a breeze. This is going to be easy. This is going to be super easy. You know it took more than 10 minutes, right? But I'm proud to say that my daughter learned how to ride a bike in 40 minutes. Now, she scared me because she was wobbling, and I'm glad her mother wasn't watching at the time. But as the days progressed, she got more and more confident. Now, 3 or 4 days later, we're riding, and she says, Dad, before we go home, can we just ride around the park? And we're riding around the park. Well, she's riding, and I'm observing. She's going in these circles around the park. Just real simple, real chill, circles around the park. And then she hit a bump in the path. And I'm like, You ever have those moments where life just is moving in slow motion and there's nothing that you can do about it? I'm watching my daughter as she hits the bump and she does not know how to recover yet. And I'm watching as she and the bike go tumbling to the ground. Now, I'm hoping it's going to be one of those moments of, okay, I fell. All right, let's go. It wasn't. She scraped her hand. She scraped her knee. She scraped her lip. There's blood pouring out of her face. And she stands up and she says, Daddy, I want to go home. Daddy, take me home. Daddy, I want to see Mommy and my sister. Take me home. And I scoop up my little daughter and I'm running home as fast as I possibly can. And we get her to the house. We're tending to her wounds because this is traumatic for her. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is bad. She's never going to want to ride a bike ever again. We just need to take it back to Walmart. You know, it was probably that Walmart bike. I know I should have spent more money on a bike. All these things fluttering through my mind. I just left it alone. 2 days later, Daddy, can you take me out to ride my bike again? On the inside, I'm turning cartwheels, but I can't let her know that I'm that excited. I ask her, my youngest daughter, her name is Ella. Ella, why do you want to go back out and ride your bike? She said, because I don't want to be scared anymore. She didn't want to wake up every day and have to pass by that bike going out of the garage, knowing that bike had something on her. Knowing that bike kept her afraid. She said, Dad, I don't want to be afraid anymore. I don't want to be scared anymore. And if not being scared anymore means getting back on the bike, even though there's a possibility that I might fall again, even though I'm nervous, even though I'm overwhelmed, even though I don't know how it's going to turn out, I'm getting back on the bike. So what's your roller coaster? What's your bike? What's the prevailing issue or challenge? What's the lingering thing that until you address it with uncertainty, because courage just means you're doing it anyway, even though you're scared. What's the thing that if you don't address will keep coming back? Several years ago, I was at the library with my daughters. Like to drop them off and do little activities. And I dropped them off at the library and I went to grab something to eat. I'm eating in the car before I go back in to pick them up. And I noticed something I had never seen before. There's this huge crow. This huge crow flying in the air. But the crow is being chased. This huge crow, this menacing crow, this scavenger crow is being chased by a small brown bird. It was really intriguing, and I thought about it for the rest of my time in the car, and I go in and I pick up the kids, and then I get home and I do what we do when we want to know something but we don't know what to do. I Google it. I type in the search engine, small bird chases large bird. Like, this is deep research that I'm doing right now. And I found that the term is called mobbing. It is when smaller birds defend their nests from predatory birds. And usually they gather together, these smaller birds, and they fight off vultures, and they fight off crows, and they fight off owls sometimes. It's usually a group of them that mob together to fight off the enemy. But what I noticed on this particular day, there was no mob. There was only one small brown bird. And that one small brown bird was giving it everything that it had. It was chasing this crow. It was darting at this crow. It was nipping at this crow. And this crow was aggressively trying to get away. I don't know what the nest looked like. I don't know what the bird was protecting. I just know that the bird said, no matter what it costs, I'm going to protect the thing that matters the most. The truth is, we're like that small brown bird. That our life, our leadership, our professional journey, the things that matter to us in many cases are like eggs in a nest. In the rest of the world, this world of fear, this world that's opposing, this world that is dangerous, is trying everything that it can to take the best of you. And there are many times where you have to be just like a small brown bird. And even if you're by yourself, even if nobody else is fighting with you, even if nobody else wants to be brave, you will chase away the things that are coming against you to protect the things that matter most. I love how Marianne Rodmacher puts it. Courage doesn't always roar. Remember that from the beginning? Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. And as you go back home, you're going to have a day that goes well, or you feel brave, or you feel courageous, where everything works out the way that you need it to work out. And you're going to have a day in which you fail. A day that you don't feel brave, a day that you don't feel courageous, a day that things don't turn out the way that they should. But here's what everyday courage looks like. If the day goes great, if the day goes badly, at the end of the day, you make the promise to yourself to try again tomorrow. It's my hope, it's my wish, it's even my prayer that no matter what you're dealing with in life, that you find the courage to try again tomorrow. Thank you.